Hey, it's Soul with another video, and today, well, we're back for another episode of League Season. Again, we're doing this live. We have chat over here on the other side. I just got through a bunch of squats, and we are ready to go. Now, as another reminder, I think I want to do this every time. League Season is where I examine, the latest leaks that are coming out from places like MMO Champion, 4chan, and wherever, and I mostly make fun of them in between my heavy breaths. I'm making fun of them mostly because they're all 100% fake. Notice that yesterday we had some huge news with regards to somewhat dissolving the faction divide in an upcoming patch 9.2.5 that no one really mentioned in any of these leaks, which definitely makes all of these leaks, well, extremely fake. But with all that said, let's have some fun with it, talk a lot of smack, and well, let's get right to it. All right, let's get started with SOE leak, Shadows of Azeroth. And the villain, straight up starts with the villain, Sibelian. All right. Oh, this is kind of long. Okay, let's go. All right, pre-patch. Players and the other characters that came back from Shadowlands are invited to a party by Rathian. Rathian, in a private conversation between him, Anduin and the player, talks about sharing a discovery he has made now that things are cooling down. The party is crashed by a void-corrupted Sibelian, possibly mind-controlled, possibly gone mad, who takes over the Blackrock Spire with the help of the Infinite Dragons. Everyone escapes and regroups in Shadowforge City. Rathian is injured and needs time to recover. But a void-corrupted Sibelian, are we supposed to know who this is? I mean, first off, I'm like, hey, dude, it's a nice intro. We're going to start off by partying. Because Rathian, he looks like kind of a freak. He looks like the kind of dude that'll be like, I'm going to bring the beer and the drugs and the girls and the boys, all of it, right? So, cool. All right, so the opening cinematic has Sibelian using Nefarian's lab to resurrect Malagos. Oh, that's different. All right, the expansion proper. A mysterious blast of magic is seen off the coast of Quothalas, gives back the dragon aspects their power. And the main story consists of a succession crisis of the Black Dragon fight with Rathian and Sibelian competing on becoming the new Black aspect. Rathian recruits the players, Anduin and the Explorers League, and the Reliquary to do some archaeology on the Dragon Isle and find the heart of the first whelp. The heart of the first whelp. A tiny gem that can channel the nature magic of all creatures, including wild gods and Loas on Azeroth, into the one who consumes it. Okay, I'm going to talk about that in a bit. All while Sibelian is trying to resurrect Galakron as a chromatic dragon using a mix of Nefarian's research and void magic. There are also other problems the other aspects have, like Chromie trying to find out why and how the Infinites are working for Sibelian and Nosdorma being of no help whatsoever. Kalik probably dealing with Malagos and maybe bringing him back to our side. Ysera finding some terrible revelations about Elune and fighting off void corruption herself, and Alexstrasza seemingly acting completely oblivious to everything that's happened. Wait, what's Ysera doing? She's not anywhere. She's not mortal. She's dead. I don't get it. And Alexstrasza is seemingly acting completely oblivious to everything that's happening. As all this is happening, and as Anduin is on an adventure with Rathian, a different succession crisis is brewing in Stormwind. And as Anduin is having a personal crisis over whether he's even fit to be king anymore, and whether he should even return to Stormwind at all, or remain in exile with Rathian. And on top of that, Moira is getting tired of dragons in her mountain, so she's plotting to maybe get rid of the black dragons for good. So there's already so much happening at the same time that it almost seems plausible that you have to see so many different things happening all at once. This Heart of the First Whelp sounds ridiculous. The Heart of the First Whelp. It's weird because, at least in my limited knowledge of dragon lore, the chicken came before the egg because the Titans empowered the 5 aspects with all their cool shit. Ta-da! So I don't know. Obviously this will need like some explanations and stuff, but that sounds, this Heart of the First Whelp, it sounds, it's like this weird MacGuffin, a tiny gem that can channel the nature magic of all creatures, including wild gods and Loas. And yeah, that seems weird. Okay. New continent. The Dragon Isle will have only 3 zones, like the BFA continents. A green hill zone where Rathian and his supporters have gathered, filled with dig sites and shrines and dragon statues. A charred zone where Sibelian and his supporters have gathered with new chromatic and twilight horrors and animated dragon statues, as well as madness domes. Madness domes that switch every hour between showing the past, present, and future section of the zone they surround. That actually sounds kind of neat. The third zone is a giant temple sunken into the ground that you can enter and exit at the bottom into a section of Azjol Narub. Flying in the first 2 zones is available at launch. Bad idea. The continent is heavily inspired by Iceland. The architecture of the ruins on the island consists of mounds, pyramids, and tents, all being made with petrified logs and giant bone splinters. The structures are heavily angular and slanted, and the giant temple is inspired by the... Nope, not gonna try and read that. New race, Draconid. Neutral race like the Pandaren, they start at level 60 and only available after completing the pre-patch party quest line. New class, Chosen. The race is unlocked in the... This is long. The race is unlocked in the pre-patch while the class is unlocked during the story? The race is unlocked in the pre-patch. The class is unlocked, so a class locked class? Or a story locked class. That doesn't sound like a good idea either. The Explorers League discovers a temple on the Dragon Isles where, in a later chapter, Rathian and the player find out that Moira has been bringing test subjects from across Azeroth and using a special chamber in the temple to imbue them with ancient dragon magic and turning them into Chosen. Rathian is outraged and shuts down the operation, but the citizens of Azeroth who have already become Chosen are brought back by the player to Stormwind and Orgrimmar. When you make a new Chosen character, your actual character you played this quest with becomes the quest giver that gets you out of the intro experience. The class itself will have 3 specs: Life, Fire, and Frost. Frost, typical. The class in general is all about teleporting rapidly around to a target to position yourself at different ranges, which make different spells available. Life is a healing spec, which does burst healing in melee range and weaker healing at ranged, like a paladin. Fire is all about a damaging shield, which you can make explode, knocking you and enemies about everywhere with your shield dealing damage passively, while enemies are in melee range, with diminishing returns and recharging while no... That sounds confusing. Frost is all about debuffs that last the further you are from a target and all other attacks. So they're making it sound like a support sort of class. I'm not sold by a class that's unlocked during the story because they mentioned temple. Moira's been bringing something to the temple, and the temple is supposed to be the 3rd zone. So the temple is supposed to be the last zone that you go to. So while the new race might be accessible during the pre-patch, you're not going to be able to start playing the new class until you almost max out your main character. So that would not sit very well, I don't think. All right, new progression type, Kinship. Kinship will be a mix between Renown and Legion artifact power. You get Kinship from PvP, dungeons, raids, daily quests, exploration, solo challenges, and pretty much anything that you do in the new expansion. Gaining Kinship levels unlocks campaign characters, increased stats, new abilities, new passives, new everything. Wait, what? New mounts, gear, and dungeon and raid difficulties. I don't know, man. The entire main story of the expansion will be in the single-player campaign, with raids and dungeons being entirely self-contained side stories. They kind of already are, though. Each campaign chapter will have an extra hard quest at the end, which can range from a Mage Tower style boss. Each campaign chapter will have an extra hard quest at the end. It can range, okay, so it's not all of them, but it can range from a Mage Tower style boss, a scenario like the many deaths of Chromie, or a variety of more difficult quests that can be done as soon as you get them with enough skill, or can be brute forced by grinding more kinship. I don't buy into that, mostly because one and dones are not something Blizzard likes doing. Many of these quests are also class-specific challenges, some that require a specific ability that is unlocked at a certain level of kinship. Gear will no longer have stats. They should have just put that at the top of the list. So that way I would be like, yeah, that's a lot of bullshit. Gear will no longer have stats in SOA, I forgot what the expansion's called already, and will only have passives or other abilities plus a single stat called Inner Fire that just increases the benefits from your kinship level by a percentage based on how much. That sounds neat. This sounds so needlessly complicated. This is just so that you can't take off all your gear and be just as powerful as in gear. All older gear will only work while in Chromie time. So, oh my god. So this dude is suggesting a kind of gearing system where all of your stats are basically going to be on a template. That's what I'm seeing. Yeah, all the stats are going to be on some template because gear will no longer have stats. They're just going to have passives and stuff. So I don't even think this person entirely knew what he was writing or what he implied with something like this. This is awful. This is so, all and older gear will only work while in Chromie time. So all of that stuff doesn't matter because at least, okay, now we're gonna talk about Chromie time in a little bit. But yeah, that's, oh man. The whole thing about having extra hard chapters that are, that do seem interesting, but you only do them once and then you're done. One, that would feel kind of wasteful because it's like, okay, they put all this stuff into like leveling that you're only going to do once, but then afterwards, now that we've experienced something like Threads of Fate, most folks are going to go the route that is the most efficient for them. So a lot of these things are just going to be kind of a one and done thing, and like that's it, and that's gonna kind of suck. All right, Chromie time. It's now just an on-off thing, and it's automatically on all new non-Draconoid, non-boosted characters created, and it can be turned off at any time. All older gear, including tier gear, legendaries, and Legion artifacts, will have their stats, abilities, and talent trees restored. Oh, that's bullshit. That's no, they're not gonna bring that stuff back again. We gave you a thing, and then we took it away, and then we gave it back again. That considers that whole narrative of Blizzard patting themselves on the back for fixing the problem that they made. People love to use that sort of argument, but no, they don't do that. And this is just... it can be used at any time, but if you are level 60, you will not gain experience. And if you are above level 60, Chromie time will de-level you to 60, and your kinship and other mechanics or abilities from SOA will be disabled. Completing achievements while in Chromie time will grant you quite a good amount of kinship to incentivize players to go back and experience older expansions on their own time. That seems almost contradictory. Incentivize players to go back and experience expansions on their own so they can get a good amount of kinship or AP, whatever that is, and maybe even play parts of older expansions that they may have missed the first time around their main characters. While in Chromie time, you can also take part in quest chains that have otherwise been removed. Also, not only are they going to necro the Legion artifact, and oh god, yeah, they're going to necro the Legion artifact. They're going to necro tier gear, which have bonuses that enhance abilities that are gone now, legendaries that enhance abilities, and other things that are also gone now. Oh man, this guy is smoking something fierce. Oh, I should have said once. So he's bringing back the legendary chains and mists, and WAD, and the Battle of Undercity in Watlick. Oh man. A new mount will have Chromie riding with you whenever you summon it. It's like, here's the cherry on top, guys. Here's all these impossible things that Blizzard's going to do. And a mount. 2 new cities. Blackrock Hold for the Alliance and Anderhall for the Horde. Okay, those are... That's a different. These 2 cities will have Zadormi in them that will be in all-in-one phasing mechanic and will allow you to switch the world to any phase from Cataclysm to SOA, since the story will take place all over Azeroth and Outland. Where did Outland come from? And a lot of events will change the layout of inhabitants of these zones. In Blackrock Hold? What happened pre-Cataclysm? Whatever. Zadormi will allow you to browse through and choose to set the whole world back to any state of the world that you have unlocked from any patch of any expansion. What? I'm glad I started off with this one, because this one is just boo, to the moon, man. So I want to play patch 5.2. You know, escalation patch or whatever patch that was. It's like, I want to do that one. Yeah, man. At the rate things are going, releasing Q1 of 2023 is just hopeful, even while anticipating crunch. I don't think this guy even knows what crunch means. I don't see how it can be released by then unless stuff gets cut and placed in a later patch. Most likely everything in Outlands, since it involves multiple zones being remade and taken over by the Void. Alternatively, I can see it being cut completely. What? What? You can see the expansion being cut and being saved for 11 to be done properly? Maybe even... Oh man, this dude is insane. This is insane. But he put so much thought into this. I have to give it like a 4. I will give it a 4 because it's just so confidently insane that it makes it fun to read. But this is just so much bull. Before we get back into it, I'm still reeling from that one, because that one just had some insane ideas. Like, does this guy have any clue how games are made? It's like, hey dude, let's just take artifact weapons and just copy paste the old version of them when they were active and plop it in. Easy. Or let me drag the file that says Battle of Undercity and just drop it into the WoW expansion folder, and then boom, it's back. I have a feeling that's what I think that's where he comes from. Is that technically even possible to switch between every patch and expansion on a whim? I would say that, I would argue that maybe it's possible to on a per zone basis you can switch things to different world states. It's just a matter of them recreating every world state. But I think that's insane too. For all sorts of reasons. Moving on. WoW, no space, light and shadow. I don't know if I read this one already. Well, I guess we'll see. This one's not nice and short. There are no new classes. Instead, we join either the light or the shadow, which gives us some visual changes to our spells. Think Shadowbat Wings for Ret Paladin and Undead for Demolock Demons. So that's it, huh? Just cosmetic changes. That's our light and shadow. There's no combat skills from the faction we choose, only visual and out of combat perks like the Kyrian Steward, the Soul Shape, and etc. Hey, both of those are combat perks. Freaking File of Serenity is broken, and Soul Shape is a nice little blink / run speed thing if you want it. So Sorry, buddy. Training ground, sort of like Torghast, a simulation our faction runs where we fight old enemies, bosses, dungeons, and etc. We can recruit followers that we can level and gear up that help us there. You can get a heroic quality piece of gear from here each week, and it counts towards the Great Vault, which returns. That actually sounds kind of fun. To have a sort of like a danger room. You know, you just walk in, and then you fight like progenitor-looking versions of bosses. So you see like the wireframes or like some cool starry effect. I don't know. They're like harder versions of it. You beat it, and then you get shit. And then the whole follower thing, that sounds kind of cool too. AI followers that just like help you out with shit. You know, imagine like the island expedition people that are on your side, right? That sounds kind of fun. Too bad it sits on a premise like this, which sounds just kind of weak. The light invades Azeroth through the Sunwell. Illyria lets the Void in through Stormwind after feeling threatened. Turallion is killed when the Void invades. Both factions want to take control of Azeroth to destroy the other. Now, this I buy into. I'm still kind of on that old, the old Armageddon theory that the Void Lords want to take over a Titan, and then they'll use that to destroy everything. But I also believe the Light is also trying to do the same thing. So I'm a fan of that headcanon of sorts. So Illyria just lets him in through Stormwind after feeling threatened. Boo, I feel threatened. And then she just opens up a portal somehow. It's kind of weird that the Light invade through the Sunwell too. I mean, it sort of makes sense, but I would imagine that the Sunwell isn't... Well, I guess... What's his name? Kil'jaeden tried to use the Sunwell as a portal. Why couldn't, like, Agents of the Light? Nothing on Yrel, though. Kind of a bummer. Locust Walker is back. We see a Void Lord during the intro. There is a dungeon in Magister's Terrace. So, there is another dungeon? Or there's a dungeon in the dungeon. The expansion zones are in the Eastern Kingdoms between Stormwind and Silvermoon. Updated versions of the old zones where the war is taking place. So updates between pretty much everything from Silvermoon all the way down. That's a lot of zones to update. But I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind hanging out in new zones that are like, can be chromied out or, bronze dragoned so that we can go back into older areas. It is really cool to go into his zones and feel them like redefined. Like something that easily comes to mind is the Battle of Ardenweald. Like people are used to kind of zipping by through certain areas of Ardenweald, but then when they created a scenario out of that, that'll take you from this place to this place, you jump from here to there, and then you're fighting these big fights all over the places with entirely new vistas and all that. It redefined the whole look of it, the whole look and feel. It made it feel like a new zone, even though it definitely wasn't, and that's cool. That's why I'm always a big fan of. I'm a pretty big fan of revamping zones and stuff. Hey, Blue. Otherwise, this one, not a lot of effort. This one gets like a 2. A 2.2. This is the first time I give an in-between. A 2.25. Moving on. World of Warcraft, space, Infinity. Level cap is 65. So they're pulling a Cataclysm. All right. Infinite Dragonflights has created new timelines looking for powerful champions to corrupt with the Alliance and Horde. There's no new classes, again. I think people that say that there's no new classes, that they're cowards. That they won't even try to do a new class. Like, come on, dude. At least put in some effort. Anyway, there's no new classes, but there are significant class changes for the talent system that mimic new specs. There's no new archaeology, again. Inscription has been removed. No. Nope. It's been removed in favor of a new glyph system. Actually, that's something that I would want. Just the other day, I was blaming Blizzard that they took away major glyphs, in favor of expansion features. So I would love to have a new major glyph system return. but I want to make that money. Don't take it away from Inscription. Sheesh. The Plaguelands, I guess, is a new zone. Aid Sally Whitemane, Hala, and her Worgen-based... I have a big crush on her, by the way. Aid Sally Whitemane and her Worgen-based Scarlet Crusade against Illidan's undead army? What? Pandaren, Vulpera, and Torn also help as they are now immune to undeath due to the infinite dragonflight's manipulation. What? Umbra Summit. The void has tainted the world trees, and elves are the enemies. Mountain Hyjal is the changed zone. What? Kazan. A new zone this time. Gallywix has escaped to this time. Oh, so they're all different timelines. Okay. Gallywix has escaped to this timeline and gained the power of the Titans. His pleasure palace is a floating island like Dallin. Dude, was this guy like... I'm just gonna get wasted. And I'm gonna have a pen and paper on me. And I'm gonna write down some shit. And then I'm gonna wake up and then see what I wrote. And that's what this expansion is. Fell Crown. I wonder what this is a cross between. Help the Alliance and Horde army against Sylvanas' demon army. A story-based zone is planned for alternate Draenor and Yrel taking place on Farallon. Oh, so Farallon's coming back. Rejoice. Everything is okay. Fell Crown Citadel is the first raid. Arthas is the second to final boss, and then Sylvanas. Only 6 dungeons at the start, but half have branching paths. Yeah, we really needed that detail. All of this. Oh, but you know, the dungeons, they have branching paths. Watch out. A Torghast replacement appears with old mobs and bosses from classic Rathian days. Oh, well, it seems like a missed opportunity to title this World of Warcraft Infinity. This is... Yeah, dude, like, let me have my kid write something based on what he knows about Warcraft, and then I'll just take his ideas. Wow. I don't think I've given ones yet, but I'd say Light and Shadow is better than this one. Yeah, let's set the bar. Let's set the bar, and we'll give this one a 1. Congratulations. I'm not here, don't look. Yeah, well done. World of Warcraft, the Cosmic Forces from 4chan. Get your latest leak here, I guess. I only glanced at this. There's like this stuff, and then there's like some other pictures. Okay, yeah. So we'll take a look at some of those other pictures in a little bit. Name is... Oh, so it really... Okay. World of Warcraft, the Cosmic Forces. Lame. New level cap is 70. 5 new zones. Sherath, Yalangard, Favenska, Bashalanor, and Levenis. Cosmic Path System. Cosmic Powers. New artifact weapons. Are we really gonna have they're not calling them cosmic weapons? No, they're artifact weapons. And class cosmetics. Alright, let's go. The Jailer has been defeated, but he left a rift in Zereth Mortis, which allows the other 5 cosmic forces to invade the other realms. So now we're seeing a direct tie-in. Okay, this is actually a little bit new. All the Zereths are connected. At first, the other realms, they invade Zereth Mortis with the intention of conquering the Realm of Death. This is the pre-expansion event. We defend the Shadowlands and fight their forces back. We then enter their realms to deal with the situation. Zereth Mortis is our jumping off point into these other realms. Zereth Ordos, Umbra, yada yada yada, they're the points of arrival, which allow the champions to go deeper into the domains of these cosmic forces. Fuck. So no return to Azeroth. Great idea. The player then infiltrates the other cosmic forces. All cosmic forces have the natural impetus to conquer the other cosmic forces. Do they? I guess. You know, death wants to consume all, life wants everything to live. I guess that's a thing. Arcane wants to arcane everything, right? Okay. It's the goal of our heroes to keep the balance between them, to fix the rift in Azeroth Mortis, and to get the cosmic forces to agree to a truce. Oh, so the mere mortals will talk everyone into agreeing to a truce. No, that's not going to happen. What usually happens? We kill them and we loot their corpses. That is the Warcraft universe, which I don't mind. I don't mind that gods are killable. We've seen plenty of other mythology where, with the right weapons and a lot of motivation, even gods can be felled. I totally buy into that. Bringing it back to Warcraft, though, I miss Azeroth, right? The heroes split up across the cosmic forces. The player joins one of the cosmic paths. Some typically line up with certain classes like paladins and priests and the forces of light, but every player can choose independently of class. So instead of 4 covenants, there are 6. Cosmic paths are essentially like covenants, but no combat abilities. Okay, so that kind of helps. Only cosmetic abilities. For example, players who pick the forces of light can make themselves glow with light. Followers of the path of life can make flowers grow, and so on and so forth. Every cosmic force has a talent tree similar to soulbinds. Wait, I thought they had... Okay, so they have no combat abilities, but they do have a talent tree with a lot of useful stuff like increased mount speed and so on and so forth. Oh, but it's restricted to outdoor content. New mounts, new transmogs, pets, and etc. Each cosmic realm is huge, and we only see a small part of it. I mean, if we're only looking at the Zereth... You see, here's the problem. Like, Zereth Mortis is supposed to be like a... Azeroth Mortis, as we're seeing it, is like the foundation of where afterlives are created. But what about the other places? They don't exactly have their own afterlives to make. So what is it that they make? I guess we would find out. But I'm also not interested in, I would play this because I'm a fan of WoW. But I would feel very uninterested or very not invested into the story because, again, we're not on Azeroth. The limitations to my interest would be really, really narrow. It would be limited to just like the familiar characters who might be joining us along the way. But I also would just miss the whole notion of wandering into like a new part of Azeroth where there might be cool stuff to find and like small stories and stuff. I would be, it's kind of like the problem with Shadowlands. We're meeting so many new kinds of characters with world building and all that stuff, which is fine, but it's very unfamiliar. And I think very strongly that Blizzard has learned that lesson that, okay, I think we wanted to take players somewhere else, but maybe we shouldn't be taking them to a place that's so unfamiliar. I think they got away with Draenor because Draenor was a reflection of Outland, and it also reflected like old stories, kind of like old timelines, what ifs, that sort of thing. So there was a certain familiarity there. Shadowlands didn't quite do that. Like it brought back a little bit of nostalgia when it comes to, hey, this character died, but now we get to see them again. And that's pretty neat. But overall, the world building is something that didn't take off with everybody. And I think that it's in the WoW team's best interest to get people invested into that. I don't see orcs in space. I don't quite see that happening. It could, and if it does, I'd still play it, but I just wouldn't feel very attached. I wouldn't feel very invested into the story. And there are many folks that are not me who would base their entire decision making on the story, and they wouldn't be interested in something like this. I can easily see people looking at this and be like, fuck that, man. Nope, this is not even Warcraft anymore. Well, like, I don't know what the fuck this shit is. So, actually, I think there were other pictures. Shadowlands is a zone of the void invested with old god minions. The forces of the void are not all evil. They're not all evil. I'm gonna skim through this one. This one is like... Yellowguard is the realm of order and controlled by a titan that we haven't seen before. Oh, so it's not the last titan, apparently. It's inhabited by a humanoid race called the Yall, and their society has strong fascist vibes. People who don't fall in line are dealt with swiftly. They're deathly afraid of anything disturbing their order. Elune is in the plane of light. Really? Elune is in the plane of light and not life. Okay. Ysera comes with us, and she is torn because her devotions to the plane of life basically means she has to fight against Elune and her forces. Malfurion and Tyrande are equally split up as Tyrande fights for Elune and Malfurion aids the forces of life. The plane of light is called Favinesca, and the plane of life is called Levinus. Bashalanor is home to an entire faction of demons that doesn't serve Sargeras. Demons are displayed as mischief makers and sadists who do things for their own pleasure, mess with people, tempt them, enslave them. That sounds cool. Certain creatures and characters will naturally flock to certain cosmic forces. Green dragons can be seen on the plane of life, Tyrallion in the plane of light. Big shock when Alleria chooses to go to the plane of void. Yeah, really big shock. The growing rift between these two characters will be part of the story. Essentially, the cosmic forces all see themselves as the good guys. Their path is the one true path. The cosmic forces are like different philosophies that have a hard time coexisting. They can tolerate each other for a while, but their ways of thinking are so different that they all look down on each other and they seek out conflict like warring elementals. One dungeon is a flying Naru ship that leads an assault on the Void Plane. That sounds pretty cool, actually. Part of the dungeon takes place on the ship, and players will jump down to finish the fight on the ground. I mean, I think I played through a dungeon in 14 that was kind of like that. No. That wasn't... Was that a boat? No, you were on a turtle. Yes, you were fighting on a turtle. And then you go to a cave. Cosmic powers are like Torghast anima powers, but you can get them from doing world quests and killing rares, and they're only for outdoor content and have a limited time duration. New artifact weapons for every spec, with simplified talent trees like soulbinds. Talent points are earned from doing specific tasks like callings and weekly quests, because you gotta have that grind. Class cosmetics are interfaces to manage all the class-specific cosmetic stuff we all have, like druid forms, quivers, librams, demons, and etc. It is a system where you can unlock new cosmetics through doing specific tasks. Why do we need a system for that? It's like transmog, sort of. First raid is Avalanus, the fortress of light. The forces of the plane of light are seen as especially eager to force their ways onto others, so the other forces have agreed they need to help step in and nip their attempts in the bud. Yeah, so it's like all these cosmic forces are all fighting for dominance over the other. But immediately into it, the other forces have agreed that they need to step in and nip their attempts, so they all come together right away. Yeah, some conflict, right? Even the fans trying to make their own shit just can't help but bring everyone back together. Oh, there's gotta be conflict. Nope. Okay, never mind. Conflict's over. We all gotta come together. Oh, but then let's bring them back because of this and this. Oh, but then we all gotta come back together. Sorry. We all go into this expansion wanting to keep the balance between the forces and make peace between them. But as the expansion continues, characters like Tyrallion start to identify so much with their cosmic path and their cause that more conflicts erupt as certain characters become more and more fanatic. Funny that they're only talking about the light, though. Yeah. This one... I'm gonna give this one a 3. Sobia says, we already know that they plan on bringing things home. It'll be interesting to see what they do, though I'm mostly hoping for a new ranged class. Part of me hopes we never go back to Azeroth like it's Sliders. I don't know who's watched the show called Sliders. Here's the quick rundown. Someone invents a crazy machine that lets people slide through alternate universes. And in this show, each time, this dude and their friends and a teacher or whatever, they're all sliding through into these different alternate universes, and they need to survive long enough to find their way to the next portal or something, and then they just kind of keep going through. Yeah, it's like a Quantum Leap sort of vibe, but it's a group of people instead of just one. And I watched it for a while. It was pretty insane. And then towards the end, I stopped watching it. You know, whatever, not a big deal. That doesn't help this though. God, give me a freaking kobold raid. Give me a giant, huge kobold that just, you know, takes people and rips them in half. And they're like, dude, there's a raid to go into. I want to beat that dude's ass. Like that's what I would like to see. But anyway, yeah, this one, not so great. Not so great. Moving on. 10.0, Rise of the Tinkers. I wonder what this entails. The new box is called Rise of the Tinkers, name tentative. You know, no one has listened to my tips so far. No one has listened to the idea that none of these expansions have like a project name. It's gotta have a project name. Come on, man. Anyway, the target date is late October because of course this person knows it. 3 new starter zones and 2 end game zones. Oh, that's an awful idea. Players will start at the Undermine, which will also serve as a neutral city. No mounts allowed in this huge zone, but lots of trams and fun ways to get around with wacky vendors. No mounts? People will be lit. People will be so upset over that. Which I would, to be honest, I would love that if cities were like bigger, actually. I don't know. Like the fact that people can kind of like fly in and out of cities, like, you know, there's a convenience there. But anyway, Goblin NPC will introduce players to player house. Sold. This is it. Rise of the Tinkers. We're done. Goblin NPC will introduce players to player housing, which is the big box feature. I hope, get this, the expansion that includes player housing, the collector's edition box, it abandons like the previous, you know, iterations, like that, does away with that. And the new box is shaped like a house. That'd be amazing. You can have your instant home in a ton of zones with lots of choices. That's all you got. That's it, bitch. No new levels. Incentive to play through starter zones includes unlocking flying, transmog, a new cosmetic called Ribbons, and the usual pets, toys, and mounts. How you gonna leak a new cosmetic called Ribbons and not talk about what that is? I'm sure that even if this was real, it's not. Even if this was real, why would you even include it if you've got nothing else to say about it? It's like, hey Jeff, so what can you tell me about the new expansion? I'm gonna leak this shit. And Jeff is like, well, you know, there's this thing called Ribbons. And like the dude's like, okay, cool, yeah, some ribbons, gotcha. All right, see you later. And then Jeff's like, I didn't even tell this bitch about ribbons. And and off he goes to MMO Champion, eager to leak that shit. If anything, Jeff is probably like, I'm gonna bait some fools, right? And I'm gonna tell these dudes about ribbons, and we'll see which of these jackasses talks about ribbons on MMO Champion. And when they do, I'll know who to fire. Boom. And then the dude will be like, wait, what did I do? And then Jeff would be like, ribbons, bitch. And then be like, oh man, got me again. Mythic Zero dungeons can now be queued in the group finder. You know, that's good. It's kind of a turnaround. I think people would like that. I would like that. Because I don't see any reason why Mythic Zeros can't be queued up at this point. Mythic Plus, absolutely. Mythic Zero, nah. There will be a new battleground, cool, that focuses on supporting a giant robot on your side in a fun, massive battle. 30 versus... That sounds dope. A new battleground that focuses on supporting a giant robot. That dude better have like... That better be like some crazy Gundam shit. For real. Transmog restrictions lifted except for class stats. Every race will be getting at least some new customization options, but regular gnomes and goblins are getting a ton, of course. Patches will flow more organically like during... Wait! What? I totally didn't. I totally skipped this because I was like, wait, how are you gonna have Rise of the Tinkers and not even talk about? Excuse me, not even talk about Tinkers. Okay, Tinker, Gnome, Mechagnome, and Goblin only. Has very unique animations and gameplay style, DPS, tank, and healing spec, male armor. Can transmog engineering items without needing to actually have engineering. Yeah, that's gonna be the big selling point. That's a winner. And that's it, huh? Nothing else on that. But you want to be a little bit vague. You don't want to have too much information, but at least talk about the ribbons. Bro, I feel like this was written for you. What the fuck are ribbons? I don't think I've ever said the word ribbon out loud in my many years of being alive. Except for, hey, you know what is a really good relic in Final Fantasy VI? The ribbon, because you're totally immune to status effects. That'd be great. I've never said ribbon since. This one gets, I'm going to give this one a 3 because this was a good take. Mythic Zeros. This thing got me excited, like for at least a second. Fucking giant robot stuff. Tinker's like whatever. And then, of course, player housing. Yeah, dude. That'd be cool. Patches will flow more organically like during Legion. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, this guy knows. This guy. Yep. Our planning is going to be great. Absolutely. Ooh, this one's banned. This is credibility right here. World of Warcraft, Talons of Fate, leak 10.0.0. Ooh. Here we go. This is the info I've been given. Mostly plot info as my contact works for the narrative team. That helps. It helps to narrow the scope, not feel too overwhelmed. But let's see if this guy demonstrates well enough what the narrative team actually covers. Why do I have such a hard on for player housing? It's boring. Maybe it's not boring. This is the info I've been given. Mostly plot and the main plot and focus of the expansion will be Rathian discovering the location of the Dragon Isles and the heroes of the Horde and Alliance joining him to explore and learn more about the early origins of the dragons. I like this already because it's not OMG. Everything has hit the fan. We've got to save everybody. We're going to drop you into the adventure and we're going to annihilate all that stands before us. I wouldn't, WoW expansions tend to very quickly drop you into the action. Definitely during, that definitely started in Cataclysm. Well, it's pretty much no, never mind. It's always been a thing. They always drop you into the action. You walk through the damn dark portal, you see craziness. Everyone's fighting demons. Like, oh, what the fuck's going on? I'd say Wrath of the Lich King would be like one of the more calm beginnings to the expansion. You go into like these new areas. They're already like kind of under attack and you need to like help establish their foothold. Cataclysm, you're dropped into Hyjal. They're immediately in trouble. Mists of Pandaria, there's immediately a fight between the Horde and Alliance in Jade Forest. Warlords, you fucking Thrall Spartan kicks a dude through the portal, you walk through, and there's like a bajillion dudes out there. You're dropped right in. So this would be very different. This would be a very different approach because it would be like super calm and chill, sort of. But I dig that. I wouldn't mind a change of pace because it sets a different tone for what for how this expansion is at least going to start out. But let's read on. I've only gone through like one sentence. Jeez. As Rathian and his joint Horde and Alliance expedition explore deeper into the Dragon Isles, players will meet a lineage of dragons that evolved independently from proto-dragons left untouched by the Titans, who've been struggling to maintain their way of life. Plausible. The dragons of the Dragon Isles are a nomadic race. Wait. how are they nomadic? They live on the Dragon Isles. They don't go anywhere. So that's not nomadic. Anyway, they're a nomadic race that have a deep connection to the land around them, moving around the Dragon Isles as the seasons change. It's not a big deal. I guess that makes them nomadic. But this is becoming more and more difficult in recent years as the Isles were hit hard by the Sundream 10,000 years ago. The Cataclysm and the activation of Titan facilities across Azeroth that caused the damaged and long abandoned facilities to suffer further damage. In particular, the large facility in the center of the Isles suffered heavy damage during both firings of the Forge of Origination. The use of it against N'Zoth nearly caused a chain reaction that would have destroyed the Isles. Alright, that sounds plausible still. There are two subplots of the expansion. One will focus on Tyrande reasserting herself as the leader of the Knights Elves after being away in the Shadowlands, attempting to forge a new path for their race and rebuilding her relationship with the Alliance, which has become further strained due to her being denied vengeance against Sylvanas and the new relationship between the Horde and Alliance. The other subplot will focus on the Scarlet Brotherhood, who support Kalia Menethil as the heir to Lordaeron, and have come to an uneasy truce with the Forsaken due to her affiliation with him. No way would the Scarlets team up with the Forsaken. Their fanatical devotion to the light and Kalia Menethil put them in a strange position with the Horde, an alliance that has the potential to unravel their delicate relationship. Tyrellian sees a kinship with them, and their devotion to the light seeing them as a potent weapon in the inevitable war against the light and void, but their devotion to Kalia and tendency to spread anti-alliance propaganda causes many within the alliance to see them as puppets for the Horde, to indirectly wage a cold war against the alliance. Though Anduin has returned to Azeroth, he is having a difficult time reconciling his actions whilst being dominated by the Jailer. He will take a step back from directly leading the alliance, serving as a figurehead for the alliance to rally behind when he comes to terms with himself. This is a story beat planned for future patches, though it is planned that by the end of the expansion he will be in a better position as the leader that this new alliance needs. It's reasonably plausible. Someone points out, false, the lore says the Scarlets have a true heir in their keeping. I think that's a good point. I mean, this definitely reads like whoever wrote this is definitely trying to, connect all the right dots together, which definitely helps. Roughly 5 years have passed since the Shadowlands. Oh, a time skip. Roughly 5 years have passed since the Shadowlands, and during this time the Horde and Alliance have maintained an uneasy relationship. Though they are far from a completely unified force, the two factions increasingly work together to ensure both are adequately supplied and undertake joint operations to combat throwing threats on Azeroth, like a giant sword. Or a big hole in the sky. No one's talked about that. No one's talked about how to patch up the hole. And I thought that I had a really good theory out there. I don't know who remembers because it was really good. But I had a theory. The team really liked the return to linear questing in Shadowlands, and this will be employed again in Talons of Fate, with a system similar to the Threads of Fate unlocked as soon as players hit the new level cap of 70. There are 4 leveling zones that will take players through the story of Rathian and the Horde and Alliance, exploring the Isles and attempting to help stabilize and repair some of the damage done to the Isles and ensure that the survival of the nomadic dragons of the Isles. As players work through the zones, they will discover the extent of the Titan facilities on the Isles and the extent to which they are damaged, and the damage caused by the actions of the Horde and Alliance in recent years. This will be discovered by the players and the Dragons of the Isle by the end of the second leveling zone, roughly level 63 to 64, and cause the dragons to be horrified by the death and destruction the Horde and Alliance managed to leave in their wake. Revealing that their ancestors prophesized a dragon would visit their isles from a distant land who would either bring about the destruction or the salvation of their isles. The dragons suspected this dragon was Rathian, and this revelation confirms it to them. So far, this just reads like a pretty competent story. It feels like there are holes with the whole prophecy, dragon from a distant land. that sort of thing. I would also wonder if these nomadic dragons are just dragons. Like, I guess we'll see. Because if I see something about them having like a humanoid form, then I'd be like, okay, I'm way more skeptic of this now. Because as far as I know, proto dragons don't change into any other forms. But anyway, there's also one max level zone, so 5 total. This zone is in the center of the Isles, and the whole zone is a severely damaged Titan facility and will feature a max level storyline that has players attempting to discover why the facilities of the Dragon Isles were so badly affected by the cataclysms endured by Azeroth and the firings of the Forge of Origination when other Titan facilities seem to have been mostly untouched. This will tie the story of the prophecy and the Dragon Isles to the story of Azeroth in a way that intends to add to the story and not retroactively fit it in. Yeah, but isn't it already? Because I guess there were small references to Titan facilities that were destroyed from BFA when you talk to that one maiden or whoever who refers to like other locations, and this could be one of them. What was my theory, Tharmas? My theory was that Sylvanas and the Thanos will just sit on the rift. They will grow into Titan size. They will sit on the rift between worlds, and they will plug it up, and that is their fate. That's it. The team is apparently eager to move away from having a systems-heavy endgame and is hoping that approach will lead to an increase of new players sticking with the game. Okay, this is where it falls apart. Because I don't see any concerns coming from the narrative team, even off the record. There's also no new class or race plan, as has been the case for a number of previous expansions, as more classes only adds to the balancing workload and makes it more difficult to balance every class. If the new dragons are well received, they may end up as a neutral allied race. And here we go. This is what fucked it all up. In my opinion, though, and this is based on possibly incorrect information. As far as I know, proto-dragons do not have a humanoid form. And maybe they can develop a humanoid form. But we've seen proto-dragons in Northrend. They are not smart. They are not, exactly intelligent. So, yeah, that alone kind of like feels like a chink in the army here. Because most everything here is plausible and well thought out. This one gets probably a 5, a good 5, maybe a 6. I think the highest I've given so far was ever a 6, because they limit their scope. They're only, they're limiting what they know and what they can be revealed. I think they're revealing a little bit too much. It feels a bit too specific. This person knows a little bit too much of what's going on. I find it difficult to swallow there not being a new class or race, though. That doesn't sound like a great idea. I can envision there not being a new race because of. I'm sorry. I can envision there not being a new class if there's no reason to have one. As for no race, though, they can just take an existing race and not exactly introduce a brand new race, but they can just take an existing race and just make it playable. I don't see any problem with that. Yeah, proto dragons are basically just large lizards. I think I'd need to look back at old dragon lore. Like how did the proto dragons operate? How did they act? Because as far as I recall, they were just creatures and shit. And the only thing that was really special about Galakrond was that he was eating other dragons. So, okay, here we go. The players will meet a lineage of dragons that evolved independently from proto-dragons untouched by the Titans. Okay. So they covered it. So they covered their base here. So this feels pretty close to being plausible. I think what I see missing here, though, is that this narrative person didn't talk about systems at all, systems or features, because that is always tied very heavily into narrative design as well, because the narrative design needs to explain how these things work. So not having any info on that is like, I think they're missing too much. It's narrow in scope, which is good, but they're missing too much. They needed to have some sort of tie-in, to explain, hey, this is how it ties into, playable stuff, things that players will do. Not being able to explain that at all, or not including that, it fucks up a lot of the credibility here. This plot feels kind of feasible, plausible. The thing is, though, personally, I'm not very interested in dragons. Whatever with the dragons. They had their time in the way I see it, in Cataclysm, they had their time in the sun. Why are we going back to them again? The reason, some theories have gone back to dragons because they're like, hey, we need to find a way to help heal the planet. Dragons are one of those paths towards that. There's a big ass sword that was not mentioned here at all. Not mentioned here at all. So not having that, and I don't know. Like, I feel like there are not bigger things, but I think there are just more important things to take care of, like the health of the planet. How are things looking? Have I peeked at the Chinese post about predicting the themes for the last 3 expansions? He says this expansion would have to be dragons and elementals. That seems like a given, though, because remember, dragons were proto-dragons once upon a time. Oh god, I forgot what the origin of proto-dragons were, but proto-dragons, there was something like they were elementals, but they fused with something, and then ta-da, they became proto-dragons. And then those things were empowered by the Titans, and then they became the Aspects and the Dragonflights. So dragons and elementals, they actually kind of go hand in hand. So I don't see that as a very, wow, how did he predict that? Like, it feels like that goes hand in hand. It seems really, really obvious that we're going to do dragon stuff. Elementals aren't that far behind in that context. But I'm just, as long as we stay on Azeroth, I guess I'll be okay. But not quite as interested in dragons, because you know why? Because we're going to see all this dragon-looking gear. And after like Cataclysm and some of those pieces of gear, I'm like, eh. Obviously, I'm taking this at a transmog angle. It feels like taking on dragons is going to be Blizzard being like, okay, so we can cross this out, we can cross this out, we can cross this out. What do we got left, boys? Dragons? All right, let's get to the dragons. But if it's fun, hey, can't complain. But if it's not, but if the story isn't fun, then like I said earlier, I'm still gonna play. I'm just going to not really care about the story, and that's it. If the expansion is on the Dragon Isles, do you think the Owls could be on the backside of Azeroth? I wouldn't be surprised if they fucking floated in the sky. I'm surprised that no one's mentioned that. What if they're in the fucking sky somewhere, shrouded by clouds and all that stuff? Ta-da! Dragon Isles. No one saw this whole time. They managed to cloak their way through the Legion invasion. They might have crashed into Skyhold at one point. Oh, whoops. Hey, Odin, don't tell us. Don't tell anyone you saw us. Peace out. After seeing one of these leaks about going full cosmic and not even going back to Azeroth, I talked earlier about why I think it's a good idea for them to go back to Azeroth. It's because it's to keep people interested in the story. I think people found Shadowlands to be just too overwhelming. Spin it off in its own game. I mean, it'd be cool if it was like a Warcraft 4, and then we can go to like somewhere like brand new and all that. But anyway, I'll at least wrap up this video part. We're going to wrap up the stream in a bit, but in the meantime, well, that's the end of League season of this episode. I think this is like episode 4 now. Let me know what you guys think. What are your ratings for some of these crazy ass expansions? Just let us know in a comment below, and I'll see you guys next time. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.